Hey everybody, Dr. Rick dropping in. I hope everybody has had a great week. I know that life can be challenging, as the saying, life be life, and that's with everybody. Don't ever get the idea that somebody has some magical connection or magical potion that allows them to circumvent the challenges of life. It doesn't happen that way. People have different ways of dealing with challenges. It's your framing of the challenge, it's your perception of your reality that determines the outcome. And that's what I want to sort of talk to you about. It's Friday, but I really want to get into something. I really want to give you something that you can really take and devour and set up the infrastructure for change and advancement as we prepare to move into 2024. If you know me, you know I am a person that every year around August I start talking about the next year. Why? Because I believe in building momentum. I believe that transitioning into a new phase or a new state or new era, a new time has to be done with momentum. You don't jump into something on a standstill and say, this is my declaration. These are my resolutions. This is what I'm going to do this year. That's why you see so many New Year's resolutions that fall by the wayside within months or even weeks. Why? Because you came in with a certain mindset and you decided, instead of working and building and changing and moving through that transitional phase of moving out of one calendar year into another, which in total reality of how God designed things is not that big of a deal, except for the fact that we make it a new thing. New Year's is a big thing. So it's a transition, it's a phase, on a spiritual level, on an emotional level, and on a psychological level. It's extremely real. So then it's real. So then what should we be doing? We should start, like I said, I start in August. I'm already into June of my vision for next year and how I see myself and what I'm working out and what I'm planning and what I'm moving toward. And what I want to tell you is, while it doesn't guarantee that stuff will happen at any given moment, what it does guarantee is that you are anchored in the behavior and the thinking and the movement and the functions that are necessary to create success over time. And that's the thing that I want to hit home with here. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago about the elevation and empowerment class that I'm doing for 12 months, starting October 16th through next October. It's a 12-month class, and we are going to attack everything. We're going to address everything systematically so that we move into 2024 with momentum. We move into it. Now, this class, I'm accepting 30 people. So the first 30 who sign up. But I want to talk to you today about what's going to happen and why it's going to happen. I want to talk to you about the changes that you should be seeking in your life, whether you take this course or not. So I really want you to pay attention. I really want you to get something out of this outside of Dr. Wallace's offering an opportunity to work with him, which I think is a great opportunity. I think it's exceptional. I have done a remarkable job with the people that I have worked with, and I will continue to do so as I expand, as I grow, as I become more equipped. I'm really excited about this next phase in my life. And so I want to really and truly encourage people to walk in an anticipation of what's possible in the future, but you can't wait until you get to each point to address it. You need to start visualizing, building, and developing of the mindset, the behavioral habits, the thought habits that are immensely integral in the advancement of oneself and the elevation of one's life. So again, I want to talk to you. The first month, we are going to focus on self-image and self-confidence. The Visionetics concept, something I developed over 2 decades ago. The Visionetics concept, it begins with self-image and self-concept. Self-image is how you see yourself in this world. Your self-concept is the working out of oneself in this entire mindset. Sometimes they're used interchangeable in an interchangeable manner, but I see the self-image as how I see myself in this. The self-concept is how I see myself in this world. What can I do? What can't I do? What's possible for me? What's impossible for me? All of this starts with the self-image. This is why I teach parents as primary label givers. Be very careful what you speak into the life of your child, because early in their developmental stages, they are literally in a state of theta, and they are downloading what you are giving them, and they are cataloging that literally categorically in the framing state and staging areas of their brain, and it's developing what we call paradigms. These paradigms are the lens through which you view life. When you look at life, you look at something and say, that's not for me. You look at something and say, they can do that, but I can't. You look at something and say, maybe I can try that. You look at all these things based on the framing, based on the paradigm, based on the lens, but it starts with your self-image. I grew up in the house with my great grandparents, but one of the things they constantly said is, if you decide you can do it, you can do it. It was constantly ingrained in my mind that nothing was impossible. And then I would constantly run into people because of the way I carried myself. It was different than most of the kids around me that grew up in the same hood I grew up in, because they were literally carrying the dread and the fear and the feeling of poverty is my lot in life, basically because that's what they were hearing in their home. Not because the parents were trying to weight it on them. It was just simply what they believed. They had over time developed what we call learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is you try it enough and you just go, okay, I've tried this many years and it hasn't worked. So it's not going to work. So you develop a sense of helplessness because you don't feel you have what it takes to change something. So you accept it. And then there's this thing called vicarious learned helplessness. And that's where your children watching you take on this thing and consistently not win and eventually fold up and give up. They learn that they're not going to even try it. They have become helpless in a state of observing you. And this goes on. So when I get clients, the first thing I have to do is I have to unpack the self-image. I have to look at the self-image and almost always reconstruct the self-image. So the first month that we're going to do this thing, it's about looking at what do you believe for yourself? Because it is your self-image that is housing the vast predominance and majority of the limiting beliefs that are anchoring you in a state that you're not happy or content or satisfied in. And so you get to each year and you say, this year is going to be better, but you don't have a plan. You say this year is going to be better, but you haven't mapped out a strategy. You say this year is going to be better, but you're using the same stinking thinking that has anchored you in your reality for years. And so the first thing we've got to do is we've got to unpack the self-image and reconstruct it with new beliefs, new ideas, new expectations, new standards, new habitual habits that form this unbelievable idea that all things are possible. We do that. And I do that with my clients as individuals. And I do it in these classes. This class is going to be extremely dynamic. It's going to be once a week Q&A meeting coming together as a group. And then there's going to be work throughout the week that you're going to do daily. That's going to help structure your thought processes, structure how you view life in front of you, introduce you into the power of faith and how it flows in the science of psychology and sociology, and how your mind thinking, what you focus on, literally creates your reality, whether you realize it or not. We're going to work on all that. Then month 2 is vision, clarity, and goal setting. You'd be surprised at how many people I come in contact with that say they want something better, but when I ask them what they want, they can't tell me. They want to do better with their finances, but they don't have a number. I have a number. That number is written every freaking where in my house, in my wallet, It's on my phone. I get reminders on it. It's a number. Why? Because that number is what I focus on. And if you're not careful when you start talking about money, what will happen is you will find yourself in survival mode, especially if you're at the infancy stages of trying to come out of a particular financial situation. What you'll do is focus on the immediate need. It's called survival mode. The problem with survival mode is once I focus on that number, I'm not thinking about what's needed in the future. I'm not thinking about my vision. I'm not thinking about financial freedom. I'm not thinking about financial independence. And what will happen is almost all the time, you'll hit that number. It might be at the last moment, but you'll hit it. And whatever you were desperate for having that for, whether it's to pay a bill, whether it's to pay the mortgage, whether it's to get the kids something they need, whatever it is, you hit it. And then before you know it, it's the next thing that's pressing. And so all you focus on is that particular thing that's in front of you, and you keep getting it, but you're never setting yourself up to come out of that phase where you can actually stop doing that. And there's no magical potion for it, but that is a strategical mapping and planning and thought process that leads to it. The first thing is you've got to have a clear vision. You got to know what it is that you're looking for, what it is you're working for, not just in finances and relationships and business and your career, in your marriage and your parenting. If you're in school, in your academic aspirations, there needs to be some clarity. I want to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And yes, put some time constraints on it. Why? Because the time constraints creates the urgency. Because if you don't put time constraints on it, it's just a wish. Why? Because there's no urgency or accountability to holding to it. And as long as there's no time constraint on it, there's no time stamp on it of when you plan to get it, you'll keep saying, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. Some of you have things on your calendar that you started 5 years ago and haven't gotten to yet because you didn't put a stamp on it and make it a necessity. You got to take it out of the I want tos, you got to take it out of I shoulds, and you got to put it in the I have tos, I must. Because the things that have to get done, get done. The problem is you've misprioritized based off of a false sense of urgency about what's going on now. You're overly consumed with the moment instead of taking command of the moment and mapping out the future. So the next thing is vision, clarity, and goal setting. We're going to talk about smart goal setting. We're going to talk about the visualization process. We're going to talk about identifying personal values, aligning them for long-term vision and long-term success. Then we're going to move into month 3, and we're going to talk about quality of life and health enhancement. We're going to talk about wellness. And when I say wellness, I mean holistic wellness. Mental, emotional, psychological, and physical. We're going to talk about stress management, mindfulness. What you don't realize is, and I have written on this extensively, I have lectured in multiple countries on this, that actually our environment and the level of stress we experience in our environment, whether at home, whether at work, or both, is going to have a massive impact on our health outcomes. Many cancers, many autoimmune diseases, and so much more is directly connected to the level of stress we experience. It's an epigenetic influence. It's the back end of the epigenetic dichotomy. So again, we talk about how to manage stress, how to lower it in the environment. Even in a situation where things aren't going the way you're going, there's a way to approach stress. There's a way to minimize stress. There's a way to frame your situation so that your situation isn't bigger than your ability to come out of it, and so much more. Then we're going to move to, in month 4, financial freedom and wealth mindset. And I created this unbelievable course. But the thing is, in order to see the value in the course, you first got to believe that what's in the course is applicable to you. And the problem is we've literally been conditioned that the things that make people wealthy aren't literally applicable to us, that they don't apply to us, that we don't have access to them. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah, there are going to be certain doors that are going to be closed on you because of your race, certain things that will be closed on you because of your religion, certain things will be closed on you because of your gender. But for the most part, a lot of these mechanisms don't ask you what your race is, and they're not there to see you. Yes, You go into a bank, they're going to know. You fill out an application, even if you're not present. There are things in those applications that give the indication of who you are, and then they'll be able to identify. And yes, those things are there, but we have to learn how to move in the spaces we control and stop being so consumed by what we don't. Your advancement in life, the things that you're going to be able to do. I want you to really listen to me. I want you to write this down. I really want you to write this down. I want you to write this down. I want you to write this down. That my quality of life, my financial freedom, my vision is within my grasp. Write it down right now. Stop, find a pen. If you don't have a pen, put it in your phone, but write it down. My financial freedom, my quality of life, the quality of life I desire, the elevation of my self-image, self-confidence, self-esteem is within my grasp. I am in control. Now, this isn't something that, for those of you who have a faith center like I do, this isn't dismissing God. This is acknowledging God in you. It is important that I think that we lose ourselves. We talk about the indwelling all the time, but we don't realize that in that indwelling is this omnipotent power, this ability to understand and know. Omniscience, it's in you, it's residing in your spiritual DNA, and you have access to it. This is the beauty of this thing and this connectivity with God. This is why faith can be trusted, because that's this connectivity, but we lose sight of it. We have this idea, but we consistently, if we're honest with ourselves, see God as something in the distance that we're hoping he hears. Because if we truly believed that God is what God is, then we trust what God has promised and what God has said, and we operate with this confidence that no matter what I see in front of me, it's not bigger than God, and God is in me. That I have the mind of God. It's around me, it's in me, and it provides for me. It literally as this thing that literally says, hey, trust it. But you've got to have a belief in this. And this is what I want you to write down. This is what I want you to believe. I believe that through God, I can do all things. I believe that through God, I can do all things. Write that down, put it somewhere, put it on repeat on your calendar, that at least once a day you get that message. Once a day you get it. Why? Because it's a reminder. And if you do it consistently enough, it starts to imprint. It starts to imprint. Say it, speak it, analyze it. Don't overly analyze it. Don't start saying, well, how is he going to do it? Les Brown used to always say this thing. He said, when you are making up in your mind that you're going to do something that you've never done, that you are going to elevate your position, that you're going to do something extraordinary, something phenomenal, that how you're going to do at that moment, how you're going to do it is none of your business. What is Les saying? The natural process of doing things is to say, I'm going to do this, and the very next thing is to consult your mind to figure out if you know how. Now, here's what happens. You say you're going to do something you've never done before. What are the chances that you know how to do it? What are the chances that you know how to do it? The chances are pretty much zero because if it's something you really wanted to do and you knew how to do it, you would have done it. So the thing is, you don't know how to do it. But what happens if you consult yourself to find out if you know how to do it and you realize you don't? What? You have a tendency to put it down. How you're going to do it is not your business. The first thing you got to do is commit to it. Commit to doing it, and then enter into a process of discovery and revelation. So now this is where prayer and meditation comes in, because this is where you literally connect and access the mind of God that literally surrounds you with every thought and information and piece of data and information you need. The mind of God flows freely, but you've got to be willing to access it. You got to get outside of the thinking that your paradigm has created that is limiting what you are trying to do in this world. See, faith isn't just this mystical thing. We get all emotional when we go to church. That's why I'm real big for those who are believers to really spend time in scripture, to dissect scripture, or what we call in theology to exegete scripture, to literally break it down, look at its original text, its original language, and understand what was meant, and then say, okay, are there any conditional clauses to this promise? And what a conditional clause is, I'm going to do this, or you can do this, except for, or only when, or those are conditional clauses, meaning you can do it, but there's most of the promises are unconditional. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Then say all things through Christ who strengthens me, except. Says you shall declare a thing and it shall be established for you. It doesn't say except. And I can go on and on and on of following these promises that we talk about, but then we find reasons why they don't apply to us, even if we're doing it subconsciously and not realizing it. Because if we actually believed it and we truly walked in it, we will be experiencing God at a higher level. But what are we doing? We're sitting in there and we are giving more power to our experiences and our circumstances than we are to the power of God that resides in us. Now, for those that may not be as connected to God, psychologically, there's an abundance of empirical and pragmatic data that shows that how you think is directly correlated and connected to the outcomes of your life. What thoughts you entertain will influence your choices. Your choices will influence your outcomes. There's no way around it. 96% of what you do in this world is controlled by your subconscious, and your subconscious is programmable by the things you focus on. So then what am I focusing on? What am I doing? It's up to you. You can focus on the problem or you can focus on the solution. You can focus on what's in the past, or you can decide to lay out a new mapping for the future. You can seize the moment, be grateful for the moment, be abundant in the moment, and choose to create something that does not yet exist. That's how we got the cell phone. That's how we broke the 4-minute barrier in the mile. That's how we got airplanes. That's how that's how you're sitting here watching me now. Somebody got outside of the box. Somebody said, I think this is possible. I know what everybody's saying, but I believe it's possible. Can you imagine how crazy people thought Orville and Wilbur Wright were when they stood up and said, we're going to sit down and we're going to actually go over here and create something that people can fly around the world in? Hell, we had just got the automobile. What are you doing? What are you talking about? How in the hell could that possibly be true? Watch us. And here we are. And now we get on planes, we don't even give it a second thought. We never ever sit down and actually calculating. We're getting on a plane that weighs tons of metal, has tons of baggage, and has 200 to 300 people on it, weighing 150 to 60 pounds average. And it's going up in the air and it's flying and nobody questions it. But one day, at one point in time, it was impossible. God gave you an imagination for a purpose, but we tend to crush it in our children because we don't want them going to school talking that unrealistic stuff. We want to get them into a box where they don't sound crazy. You can't. It's time to come out the clouds now. It's time to stop daydreaming now. This is the real world. Well, the real world is what you create in it. The real world is what you speak, what you declare, what you believe, what you trust, what you move. Nobody's better than you. Nobody has more of a gifting to you. Their gifting is different, but your impact and capacity and potential to impact the world is equal. If you are a believer in scripture says God is a favor of no one. So everybody has been blessed equally, but differently. So then if you're not living in the full capacity of what it is you should do, then it's on you to sit down and figure it out why. But the first thing is to become committed. I'm not going to sit here and be satisfied with average. I'm not going to sit here and be satisfied with mediocrity. Some of you right now sitting there, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Ask yourself. Be honest with yourself. Am I satisfied with where I'm at today? Now, what I mean by that, because I'm going to tell you something. I am content with the movement, but I'm not satisfied with the state because I know there's something more. So every day I wake up to be better. I'm not saying walking around complaining and being miserable because you're not who you're going to be ultimately by the time you leave this place. But you should have the ability to look at yourself and say, you know what? I am consistently going to bed better than the man that woke up. I am consistently going to bed better than the woman that woke up. In other words, there's some things that I am consistently doing throughout my day that ensures I grow. And if that's the case, then yes, you are progressing, you are successful. It is the progressive pursuit of a worthy goal that determines success, not the hitting of goals. I said this earlier today. I said that your goals aren't destinations. You don't get to a goal and camp out. I made it. No, you hit a goal. It's a milestone. It's a benchmark. It's for you to measure your movement. It's to see how you're going. It's like a mile marker. When you're traveling on the road, you look up and it tells you I'm not passing the same place over and over again. I'm at mile marker 9 now. I'm at mile marker 12 now. That's what goals are. They're sitting there to give you something to aim at, to make sure that you're moving forward, and for you to measure the distance between your next move so you know the speed at which you're moving. And you can make the necessary adjustments, but you can't camp out in these places. You can't become content and complacent with where you are. This class is going to be immensely powerful. Then month 5, we're going to talk about personal development and growth. We're going to go into continuous learning and skill development. If you take away all of the degrees, which they allowed me to get into spaces that I couldn't get into. But other than that, I don't give a whole lot of weight. What I do give a whole lot of weight to is I read 100 books plus a year. They ain't got nothing to do with the degrees. I sit down with people that I know more than me in specific areas that I may know more than them in my area, but they know more. I sit down and I learn from them regularly. I am never content with where I am in knowledge. And I'm never content with simply holding the knowledge. My life has been a constant process of consuming knowledge, interpreting the knowledge, translating the knowledge, and then disseminating the knowledge to other people to bless them with the same opportunities that I'm experiencing. That has been what I have done over and over and over again. And I've become exceptionally good at it. And I've become passionate about it. And I'm excited about it. Every freaking morning I wake up, I'm on 10. I don't care what I'm going through. I'm on it. I mean, last couple of years have been a very trying time for me, but I show up. I promised God a long time ago. Forgive me if I get a little emotional, but I promised God a long time ago that if he woke me up, because I was in a real bad place then. I say, if you wake me up, I'll answer the bell. I didn't ask God to take me out of it because I understood that that was the process. The process is preparatory. It is preparation for the promise, for the prize. I wanted the prize, so I had to understand that I was going through the process. I didn't ask God to take me out of it. Now, once upon a time, way back when I did, and the answer I got is I won't take you out, I will bring you through. And God revealed to me that I was caught up in the idea of comfort, but he was more concerned about my character. And he revealed to me that he could not build the character in me I needed in comfort. See, adversity has purpose. It is in the fertile soil of adversity that the seeds of faith are planted and cultivated. So what I'm trying to get you to understand is that there's a place for you to grow. You got to want to grow. And then that's finding and cultivating your passions. A lot of people don't even know what their passions are because they're too busy living what someone else is giving them. They're too busy operating in default effect bias. They're too busy sitting around and letting someone else's definition of who they are govern their behavior, their expectations, and their standards for their life. And they're sitting back in the darkness of what is instead of moving into the light of what's possible. And they are frustrated. And I want you to walk out of that frustration. I want you to walk out of it. I want you to stand up. I want you to broaden your shoulders. And I want you to act like you have a direct connection and relationship to God. Now, think about this for a second. We say that God is omnipotent, meaning all powerful. We say he's omniscient, all knowing. We say that God is loving and benevolent. We say that there's nothing beyond the reach and power of God. He is the ultimate source of the universe. I speak every morning that God is the source of all I need and desire. Well, then if that is the case, and then God is residing us, why are we walking around in defeat? I'm not saying you're not going to run into difficult situations. I'm not saying that you're not going to encounter challenging moments. It says that, and because here's what it says, that it says that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. It is said no weapon would be formed. It said that any weapon formed won't prosper. No weapon formed, not one of those weapons formed, not one challenge, not one obstacle will prosper. But what do you got to do? You got to move beyond it. Some of you are sitting there because you see the weapon. Some of you are sitting there because you see the challenge. You're refusing to move through it because the challenge has convinced you that it's bigger than God. Let's take it back and look at it like this. We talk about God and we use the analogous idea, and God used it to introduce himself to us in scripture as the father and the children. God is the father. When then here's the thing. We've got to understand the relationship and the dynamic in the relationship. But just look at it from a father. Those who grew up and your father was there. You had a father figure. Maybe it was a big brother. Maybe it was an uncle. Maybe dad. Whatever. That person you look up, that was the influential model of fatherhood. And say he was teaching you how to ride the bike, or he was teaching you to swim. And there's this fear of this water, right? There's this fear. But dad is saying, trust me. Or who remembers dad putting you up on something tall and telling you to jump down? And what you had to trust. And initially, there's this apprehension. You're stepping and you're going, and then eventually you ride out. No matter where I jump from, daddy's got me. That's the life I live. No matter where I jump from, God's got me. Guess what starts to happen when you realize you start jumping from higher places? And what you start to realize is at some point, God moves back and lets you realize that you can fly. There's a story I read a long time ago. It talks about how eagles train their eaglets. I don't know if that's a real word, and not just roll with me on it. Don't hold me accountable if it isn't. But how they train their eaglets. Say, okay, when they first are preparing to lay eggs, eagles go build this big nest, and they kill their prey, and they save the fur, and they lay this fur out. I mean, real comfortable, right? And then all of a sudden, they hatch these hatchlings, and they go out and they hunt, and they come back and they feed them. They give them everything they need, all the sustenance they need in order to survive and grow and become strong. And then at a certain point, they start to stand up and they start to move, and it's time for them to come out of the nest, but they don't want to come. Why? Because it's comfortable. Because it's comfortable, and they don't want to get out. So guess what mom starts to do? She starts to tear the nest up. She takes the fur out. She takes all the twigs and softness out, and now you got the thorns of the outer edges of this nest that's built, that's poking them, and it's uncomfortable. And eventually she's plucking one at a time. And then she takes them up and she pushes them off. They have never flown before. They're flopping and falling. She scoops down and she catches them on her back with ease, brings them back up, puts them up, and pushes them off again. Guess what happens? At some point, they take flight. At some point, they take flight. God is trying to get you to take flight. A lot of the discomfort isn't punishment. The process isn't punitive. The process is the prompting and the preparation for the promise. That's what? Month 5. Month 6, we're going to go to productivity and time management. How many times have you heard me say you have 86,400 seconds in a day? How many times have I said that? And I told you how you manage that 86.4 is going to determine the outcome of your life. How much of it are you spending resting and recuperating and allowing your body to restore itself? How much time are you spending learning, studying, growing, building? How much time are you spending loving and nurturing relationships? And how much time are you spending hammering on your craft, working on your vision, pushing yourself to the next level? And every second is valuable. Every second should have meaning. There should be no empty time in your day. Doesn't mean you're grinding 90% of your day and sleeping 2 hours. It means that I'm sleeping because sleep is a necessary component of my productivity. I am spending time with family because that nurturing creates healing within me. I am doing everything I can to optimally perform the responsibilities of my purpose. Right? And then we're going to move to month 7, effective communication and conflict resolution. So many relationships are destroyed in this place. So many opportunities are lost in this place. The ability to communicate what you want, the ability to communicate how you feel, the ability to communicate to others, not only helps heal relationships, not only helps build trust, it also allows people to be able to buy into your vision, buy into your dream. You need to be able to communicate it verbally. You need to be able to put it into a visual form so people can see it. It says, write the vision and make it plain so those who see it can run with it. There are people that are meant to run in your vision. People that are meant to come alongside you and touch your vision and add to your vision. I have done things not because I'm great at everything. I've done things because I have been able to convince people that what I'm doing is worthy, and people have seen it in me and have blessed me, have come in and touched and given, have come in and said, hey, let's do this, have partnered and collaborated over. It's not about this idea, this egotistical push that everybody's talking about, self-made. Nobody's self-made. God designed us to be social creatures. We are mammals, and mammals are social creatures, meaning that we function best when we are in an enclave of like-minded people are striving for the same thing. You got some people in your circle. You need to get out of your circle solely because they're going in a direction that you're not trying to go in, and they are influencing how you think. They're influencing your self-talk. They're influencing your expectations. Then we're going to move to month 8, emotional intelligence and resilience. Your emotions are powerful and they have a place, but most people don't know how to manage their emotions. Most people aren't familiar enough with their emotions to know what their emotions are telling them, and then trusting their ability to think and use their thinking and their experience to resolve the issues or to enjoy or embrace the issues, depending on what the emotion is. One of the biggest problems in the lack of emotional uh, intelligence for believers is we tend to rest heavily on the emotion that we receive when we encounter a message from God. Well, and most of that time is what? On Sunday in church. So we go to church, we get preached into an emotional stupor. We leave church believing we're bulletproof. We go to work the next day and realize we're in a real world. By the time we leave Monday, we're already what? Craving, or should I say fiending, for the next emotional fix. Why? Because what we need beyond the emotion are the tools that cultivate the faith, that create the beliefs and the dynamic thought processes that allow us to walk into that environment and maintain and sustain our emotional equilibrium, while also thriving and growing and eventually creating the process that will remove us from that environment and place us in a better situation. But if all we've got is the emotion, we lost our capacity to apply all that is available to us to advance ourselves. Then we go into month 9, personal branding and networking. Now we're getting into the point where we're presenting ourselves to the world. We are introducing the world to the value that we bring. And if you are a creation of God and you're walking here and you're watching this video, you have value. Now, the value may be hidden under years of abuse, years of abandonment, years of fear, years of uncertainty, and now you're simply operating on autopilot for whatever's thrown at you. I'm just trying to get through it, but I'm telling you, on the inside of you is a gift. And then what does it say? The Bible says your gift will what? Make room for you, and it will bring you before great men. It will expand your territory. It will put you in places where you have the ability to impact others and bless others, and in that value is your blessing. It comes back to you. See, there's absolutely nothing wrong with charging someone for something of value, as long as what you are giving them is of greater value than what you're asking. That's what my grandfather always told me. If you give them more than what they're paying for, you're always safe, son. And that's the thing. I always deliver more than what I promised. Now, here's the thing. You have to be willing to discover it. By the time we get to this month, you will know beyond the shadow of a doubt who you are. You will walk in confidence. You will not hold your head down. You will not need to seek the approbation and approval of other people to know and validate who you are. You understand that you are validated by your very breath. The fact that God has still sustained breath in you tells you you're here for a purpose, that you're still living for a reason, and that you can walk into that thing. You will know this thing. Month number 10, creativity and innovation. Oh, it's time to unleash and unlock the imagination. It's time to stop functioning under constructs of someone else's limitations of telling you what's possible. See, everything Alexander Graham Bell in the phone, Orville and Wilbur in the plane, the cotton gin, cell phones, satellite phones, video conferencing, and on and on, and artificial, I mean, just on and on, all these different things, the automobile, all these different things that we consistently see that we take for granted was once impossible, once just some idea somebody had that everybody thought they were crazy, but they stepped into it. They used the imagination and creativity to say, hey, if I can conceive it in my mind, that's God's evidence that it's possible, because God designed my mind. And a benevolent God would never design my mind to conceive something that I could never have, that I could never touch, that I could never hold. So the very fact that I can hold it in my mind means at some point in my life, I can hold it in my hands. Roll with me, roll with me. Look, what I'm trying to get you to understand is there's a process to getting to these places. It's not wishful thinking. It's not some magical moment. You may experience an epiphany that wakes you up and says it's time to do something, but there's a process of development that you've got to go through in order to get to where you are, because what you are is what you habitually think about everything. And what you habitually think is heavily weighted on the experiences of your life up to this point. So if you're going to take 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years of what you have consistently experienced and override it, you got to have a system, a powerful system to do that in a relatively short period of time. If you're going to turn that off and turn on something better, it's not going to happen because I say I wish it. It's not going to happen because you sit up and pray for it. God has given you the answer. Casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought and what into captivity. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, calling things that are not as though they were. All these things are given to you, and it's how consistently you do it to program the subconscious part of your being so that the thing that controls 96% of your behavior and your outcome is feeding your life what it needs to grow. Then month 11 is leadership and influence. Leadership and influence. Leadership isn't about making somebody do anything. Leadership is about building a level of trust in your competency and your desire to help others to the point that they buy into your ability to make them better. Leadership is about advancing other people, not yourself. Influence is the capacity through which you do this. And then finally, month 12 is review, reflection, and future planning. We set out literally, we're going to end up, we're starting in October of this year. We're going to end up in October of next year. And then we're going to literally set up our plan for the following future. Here's what's going to happen. Those who sit down doing this planning, reflection, and planning stage, if you're still on board at that time, I'm going to sign each of you up to work with me personally, one-on-one, for the remainder of 2024. So that means you're going to literally go through what we're going through as a class. The next year, you're going to go through it with me one-on-one. And that's a whole different experience. But I promise you, life changes when you have a plan, when you have a specific situational thing. And you're going to get all of this for $597. And that's with that's every week. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a Q&A. We're going to talk about where we are. We're going to talk about our concerns. This is a no judgment zone. Nothing is stupid. No situation is judgeable. We're all somewhere. We've all been somewhere. We've all done some things. That's not why we're here. We're here for change. We're not here to be weighted down with what we used to be. We're here to build what we're becoming. And I want you to be a part of that. Thank you, Kimberly Renee. Thank you so much. I'll put that up. So again, there's so much I left you with today. I really want you, if you need to, go back and watch this thing. Go back and watch this thing. Go back and look at it because there are steps in it. Obviously, you're going to do a whole lot better having someone who literally does this for a living help you move through it. Learn how to invest in yourself too. We talk about assets and we talk about assets. We talk about liabilities. We talk about the importance of this and that. Your greatest asset is you. What are you investing in you? Not on the outside. I'm not talking about the clothes, the shoes, the car, all the things that make you feel good for a moment, but get old real quick. So you end up having to get something else and creates this addiction to things. And you look up at, there's not enough things to fill that void because that void wasn't meant to be filled with things. It was meant to be filled by the fulfillment of your purpose. It was meant for you to be an impact in this world. It was meant for you to touch lives. It was meant for you to be a reflection of God. There's no greater way to evangelize your faith than by the life you live. Not what you preach, not pamphlets you share, not scriptures you quote, but how you live your life. People are looking at you. And if all they ever see is heartache and struggle and disdain and complaining, and you constantly talking about God is good, but you're constantly complaining, there are people that are looking at you and going, well, if that's what's God got going, I can do that over here without all the extra rules and regulations. I'm telling you what they're thinking. You want me to come over there, do all this stuff, have to show up on this day and do all this stuff, and I'm still going to be acting like that? Really? No, I'm good. What they need to see is not somebody who has this perfect life, nothing goes wrong in, but what they do need to see is even when it seems like he should be crying, he's got his shoulders squared. He's got his head held high, and he's still pouring into the life of other people instead of licking his wounds. That's what they need to see. They need to see that even in the darkest moments, you're not afraid. You're not shaken. I finish every morning, I finish every prayer and meditation session with several declarations. I'm unshakable. I'm unbreakable. I'm unstoppable. Today, I win. Doesn't matter what my situations are. It doesn't matter what my circumstances are. I know that God will catch me. So again, the link to sign up for this course, again, we're starting October 16th. I'm taking the first 30 people because I don't want the class to get too large to where I can't touch the people in the course. This is, again, not just a weekly come together. It's a weekly face-to-face via video conferencing, but it's also weekly putting in the work and doing what you need to do. We're going to do a lot of journaling. We're going to do vision boards. We're going to do mapping. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about restructuring self-image, because out of that comes your self-confidence, your self-esteem, self-discipline, self-determination. If you don't believe you're capable, you will never perform the actions that will get you to where you're trying to go. So we have to build that. We have to remove all the things that are moving against you. We have to address your limiting beliefs. Man, this is what I live for, because I know what happens when you do it. I know what happens when you literally put these practices to work, and I'm excited about it. But I want to make sure that the 30 people that join this go into 2024 with full steam ahead momentum. We won't have to worry about making New Year's resolutions. We will have already resolved ourselves to totally blowing up 2024. And we will have a clear idea of our visions and where we're headed. And I'm excited about that. So on that note, look, if you're serious about change, the link is in the description box. Click the link. You'll receive a welcome email from the support team. You'll also receive a welcome letter from me as I personally welcome you. We will start setting the stage. And this course is going to be on a platform. So you'll literally have access to all of the material online. You'll have your own login that you create when you register on the platform, and you will have access to all this material. You can download it. You can open it up on your computer or your phone. You can save it on those devices. However you want to do it. You can print it. However you want to do it, but you're going to have access to all these tools, all this information, and we are going to move through it, and I'm going to show you how to take your life to the next level. So on that note, look, I'm definitely excited about working with you guys. I'm excited about this 30 that we're going to take into the 30 people that are going to go into 2024 with me. So again, as I always say, I live my life on full so that when I leave this place, I die on E. That's all that I can ask of you. Truly search yourself and say, if I continue living the life that I'm living now, will I really die on E, or will I take a lot of my potential to the grave with me? As one of my mentors once said, Dr. Miles Monroe, the wealthiest place on the planet is the cemetery. Unrealized dreams, businesses not started, books not written, collaborations not accomplished, and on down the line. I've heard Les Brown quote him and saying it, but it was actually him who said it. And that's the one of the things that he left with me. And the other one that I can't shake, a lot of things he left with me, but one of the things he left was that I'm going to live my life on full. And that's how I've been ever since. But another thing he left is the need to live your life in a way that leaves a legacy. And in that, he left me with also why it's so important for men to have visions. And it's unbelievable. I'm just really, really, truly excited about the opportunity to work with people who really want to change their lives. It's a responsibility, because the moment that you come into this arena, you've trusted me with your future and your money. And I want to give you every bit of what you came for. And I have a 99.9 plus percent success rate. I looked over the last 2 years, and over the last 2 years, I've done one refund for $16. It was for like a book or something. I show up and deliver. And I'm proud of that. And I thank God for equipping me. And I thank the people who prepared me and encouraged me and inspired me, and those who are still inspirations. But now I want to be an inspiration to you. So if you are ready to do this, you definitely have what's in you, but it's not going to come through osmosis or wishful thinking. It's going to come through systematically moving through a process that is one of empowerment. So on that note, I'm out of here. You guys have an unbelievable remainder of your day. Take care.